gonna be a good day.
Hello, St. Rose. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of St. Rose Rocks, music for the Golden Knights by the Golden Knights. I just want to say I hope that everybody enjoyed their Memorial Day weekend this past weekend. I know you probably didn't have it in the traditional sense, but I hope you had a good time nonetheless. And in the end, I hope you guys remembered what we were celebrating, all the men and women who served for us. I know it was a great weekend for myself, and all the best to you guys. So with this week on St. Rose Rocks, I have a fantastic guest with us today, a St. Rose graduate, class of 2020. We have my good friend, songwriter, producer, percussionist, probably a lot more things that I don't know about he can talk to you about, Ben Grant. How you doing, Ben?
Good, man. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. And congratulations on graduating.
Thank you. You as well. You as well.
Thank you. Trying to make it a big deal to try to get a lot of 2020 people on this talk about senior projects. And you just put out a fantastic senior project. You were like one of the first people I saw release theirs. And I listened to it the next day, and I thought it was great. You had phenomenal features, phenomenal beats. It sounded great. Can you tell us a little bit of the creative process of your album?
So I started working on the album probably close to a year ago now. So, going into the summer, I didn't really know what I was going for. I draw influence from like a ton of different genres and artists and whatnot. I kind of just went into the summer with the mindset of I'm just going to make a ton of stuff. Like every day I'm just going to like make, beats and new ideas and stuff. And I kind of went into it like that. I probably came out of the summer with like 40 to 50 different ideas, and they were just like sketches, like nothing crazy. I was like, okay, there's definitely like 10 to 15 tracks here that kind of are cohesive and fit like a certain sound or like tone. So as we were going into the fall semester, I kind of broke it down into like, my favorite, or not necessarily my favorite, but just 10 to 15 songs that I could see going together and putting, making like a cohesive project. I limited down to about that many. And yeah, I just started. Definitely like my weakest point is writing lyrics as well as vocal performance. Like no one wants to hear me sing or whatever. So I was like, okay, I know that I want to work with people who, I like to work with, people who are, like my friends and easy to work with and I'll have fun with in the studio. Two, I want to work with people who I know are, good songwriters and I can learn, because I wanted to use this as like, as much as putting out a project, I want to learn from it and like just how to go about that experience. So I want to be able to learn about like songwriting, coming up with lyrics and stuff. And obviously people who I looked at as like really good vocalists and could give like a good performance. So I started sending beats to different people like Julia and Kyla and Zane and Nias and Xavier, who are all those people are on my project, and Mark. And I was like, hey, like I have this song. I think that would be really cool for you. We should get together and like co-write and come up with some stuff. So that's how I spent most of the fall semester, was just like sending things out, fine-tuning production and whatnot. I didn't think about it a ton. It was more just like sit on this for a little bit and we'll see what we come up with. And then going into the spring semester, like over winter break, I put together like a pretty diligent schedule so that because I wanted it to be, I wanted it to be good and I wanted it to be something that I could release, and I knew I wouldn't do that unless it was like perfect. So I was like, okay, we're gonna go into the spring semester with like a really detailed schedule, like how we're gonna make it work. And everybody I worked with made it so easy. It just kind of came together. And I think it was going into like the spring semester, so the winter kind of going into it, that I kind of finalized my idea of like the thematic material I wanted to cover. And it's funny because my mom, while I was working on it, kept saying like, oh, I want to like be a part of it somehow, like I want to help out as much as I can. And I'm like, oh, like you will. And the name of the album, A to Z, actually came from her, because my whole life growing up, especially like career choice as it pertains to music and whatnot, she always used to say to me like, Ben, you have all these like grand ideas and all these like aspirations, but you're at A and like you just want to be at Z, but don't know how to take the steps to get there or whatever. And I was like, you know what, like that's something I've always kind of dealt with and struggled with to an extent. So I was like, yeah, this album is like, it could be a perfect representation of just like the struggle of trying to find the steps to get to where you want to be. Yeah, and then I knew I would never release the album unless I just gave myself a date, because I would just keep finding stuff wrong with it that I could change. So I was like, May 15th, it's coming out. I'm gonna like make sure I have everything done by then. Pretty strict on myself with like dates and like when I had to have things done, which I think is why, you know, like you were saying, I was able to release it so early on. Yeah, I was really happy with how it came out. You know, it couldn't have been possible without everyone involved.
That's fantastic. And I love the theme of it, the A to Z. And I like the first track of how you kind of introduced the theme to the rest of what the album is going with and how you're feeling with it all together. I thought that was a really cool way of going into it. And that's really cool that your mom got to play a part in it that way symbolically. That's neat. So Ben, could you tell us about the first song that you're going to be showing us today?
Yeah, so the first song is Dive with Julia Gargano. That song was interesting because it was one of the first beats I made going into the last summer. It was like so different from anything that I've ever heard Julia do, like even just a singer-songwriter in general. So when I made it, you know, it's got like the really heavy bass line and like really electronic, and then also some Afro-Cuban percussion influence, like with the cowbell and the bongo. So it's really kind of like a bunch of stuff put together. When I decided to hit up Julia to write to it with me and to perform on it, it was kind of like, I just want to see like what she could do on this, because she's insanely talented. And I've never heard her do something like that. It was like kind of like an experiment almost. I was like, I just want to see like what she could do with this. And she killed it. We went into it. I was like, yeah, I think like really percussive vocal performance would be cool. And, you know, like in the bridge, there's a ton of like vocal modulation stuff going on. And yeah, so we had a ton of fun with it. And she was so easy and fun to work with. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Well, I certainly did during my first listen, and I hope all of you guys at home enjoy it as well. This song is Dive by Ben Grant featuring Julia Gargano.
Piece us back together again, just like that. Oh, you fell again, and I did too. You're always back, and I'm always back. Right here it seems, just like that. Oh, I'm living high, like lucid dreams. And I just laugh and close my eyes, like the first time. When you dive into me, oh, I dive into you, just like we always do. When you dive into me, oh, I dive into you, just like we always do. For fire, all the love we gave, we stole away. And I was tired, but it's just that flame that wants to stay. And you were tired, oh, but we bend until we break. You said goodbye too many times, but now it seems just like that. I'm living high, like lucid dreams. And I laugh and close my eyes, like it's the first time. When you dive into me, oh, I dive into you, just like we always do. When you dive into me, oh, I dive into you, just like we always do.
We're just sick. Our bridges are like everything for me. Me too.
Will it break? Will it break? Will it break?
you talked about having a very strict schedule.
Yeah.
And how was that when we got into this whole pandemic time frame? Obviously, that must have thrown things off. What were things like working from home? Were you collaborating with the artists from home? Was that stuff already taken care of and you were mixing? Tell us about that process.
So luckily, I knew that I was going to want to give myself a ton of time to mix because, you know, as you can hear in the album, like there's a lot of more like in-depth production and like mixing stuff going on. So I knew going into it that I wanted to give myself a lot of time for that. So luckily, I got most of the tracking done by like March 1st. And that was intentional. Like I was like, yeah, I just want to have everything done so I can just rely on myself to do.
So you were in nice shape. Didn't need much of a studio by the time everything hit.
Yeah. And even a lot of the tracking I did right here in my room, you know, like people would come over and we'd record either that or like in the studio at school. Yeah. So going into quarantine, I had already had like the large majority of stuff recorded. There was a couple things I needed like one more verse for Grind. I needed Zane's stuff and I needed Ted's guitar stuff on Grind as well. But for the most part, I was in pretty good shape. You know, like the whole quarantine and COVID thing definitely like kind of changed the tone of things, you know, because I wasn't able to like, I would have loved to, you know, still be in the studio with everyone, like even like coming up with ideas for the mixes and whatever. So that was kind of unfortunate, but I mean, luckily with like the day and age we're in, I could just send them stuff and be like, oh, like check out this mix. Like, what do you think about this and that? I was still able to collaborate with everyone. It kind of worked out in the end.
No, that's good. Yeah. Oh, you're right. Having the technology that we do definitely does make the process a lot easier. But I don't know. Personally, I feel like you kind of miss something when you're not there in person. Like it's one thing to share stuff back and forth over email or whatever, but it's not the same as being in studio and working on that magic together. Yeah,
there's just like an energy, especially like, you know, when you're all just like vibing and you hear something that you're just like, yeah, that's what it is. Like, that's great. So yeah, I definitely miss having that, but luckily I was able to definitely experience a lot of that early on, which I was fortunate for. But yeah, and sometimes I was even thinking like, I wonder how this album would have been different had we still been able to, you know, be together and whatever. But I don't know. I think everything happens for a reason, and these kinds of challenges force you to like make certain decisions that, you know, could have been good in the long run. So yeah,
definitely. And it's a project you should be proud of nonetheless. So no worries about that.
Yeah.
Let's backtrack a little bit. How did you get started in music, and what kind of influenced you to take this musical path?
Good question. So I started music in general when I was probably like 5 or 6, taking piano lessons. So I started as a pianist. We had a family friend who was an incredible pianist. Like she ended up going to like Eastman, and now she teaches at like Indiana or something, and she was an incredible pianist. I remember watching her at like our school talent show, and she just blew my mind, and I was like, I need to learn how to play that piece that she played. That really motivated me, you know, having like that person and that kind of role model to look up to. So I was doing that for a while, and then I think in 4th grade I started doing percussion. That's like, I think where I really, you know, like found what I really enjoyed about doing music, because I started doing Empire State Youth Orchestra and Empire State Percussion Ensemble, which was just incredible to have like right around like in my area, because it's I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Oh yeah, fantastic program.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the fact that like I had that right around me, it was just huge for my growth and development as a musician. You know, going into college, I, in my mind, had the idea that I wanted to study performance and, you know, go on to get like my master's and PhD and become a teacher and audition for orchestras. So I went to Ithaca College, and while I was there, I kind of like had I don't know, like if this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. So I came home and I started getting into producing, like making, you know, like writing music and like electronic production and stuff. It was like I was discovering music for like the first time again. Like it was just, I was like, wow, like this is like a whole nother creative avenue that I just like never explored. It was just like a breath of fresh air from the 5 hours a day in the practice room, and which was, I loved it and I learned a ton, but it just it was just really great to kind of have like a new avenue to express myself creatively. So I started doing that, and I found out St. Rose had a music industry program right down the road for me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go there for a semester and then maybe try and figure out where to go next. After I got to St. Rose, I was like, wow, like there's like a ton of talent here. Like, how is this right down the road for me? And like, I never knew like how many people were here, like how much talent and just like passion and just cool stuff going on. Just made me realize, like, I don't know how much, everywhere you go, just how much talent there is. And it was really inspiring. So I ended up enrolling full time, and I just got deeper and deeper into, the more production side of things. Honestly, couldn't be happier with where I am in like my musical journey right now. I don't see myself stopping learning anytime soon.
You have so much in your tool belt that you could go in just about any direction, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. Like I've gotten gig opportunities playing with orchestras, as well as like rock bands, and then like also producing for people. So it kind of like, it definitely worked out because I feel like I'm also the kind of person who doesn't like to just do one thing for too long. I feel like I get kind of like antsy and like, oh, I got to do something more different. So it's really nice having, like you said, the tool belt to be able to, do different things. And yeah, so I'm happy about it.
So Ben, could you tell us about the second song you're going to be showing us?
So Grind is I made that beat, or like a skeleton of the beat, when I was listening to a ton of like Hans Zimmer and cinematic kind of orchestral, but like modern production stuff. The whole point of that beat was to be like a cinematic hip hop kind of beat. You kind of hear that in the drums and like the string arrangement and the verses and whatever. So that was actually the first beat of 2019 I made, which is kind of funny. And I never thought it was going to be on my album, but I was over that summer, I was like listening back to old stuff I made, and I was like, this could probably be pretty cool. So I did that. And then again, I had no idea who would be on it. Luckily, the freshman class at St. Rose was filled with talent. And I met Xavier early on in jazz ensemble. And just like an insanely talented kid in every way, like can produce, sing, rap. I hit him up and I was like, dude, like, do you want to be on my senior project? And he was like, oh, because he's a freshman. He was like, wow, like, of course, I would love to. And I was like, dope, like, let's just like get in the studio and I'll show you some beats that I have in mind. And he was like, oh, can I bring my friend Nias? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, like bring him through. Nias came through and he was showing me stuff he'd worked on, and it's very like R&B, kind of like Party Next Door kind of music. He was like, oh, I think I could like write a really cool hook over this. And like he just like started going for it, and I was like, wow, like this really just came together. Yeah, when you first get into college, your mindset is just so different, and it's just like it's funny to see like how much you grow and evolve and just change in general. So yeah, it was cool. It kind of like took me back to having like that kind of energy when I was first a freshman. So we threw that track together, and I kind of felt like something was missing towards the end of like even just like a month ago, like a few weeks before I dropped the album. So I reached out to Ted and I was like, hey, like, could I send you this track and you could just like shred over it, see what you come up with? Like a day later, he sent it back and I was like, yep, like this is perfect. So yeah, that's another track that, it worked out really well with like the collaborators, and it worked out so well that I was like, I want you guys to go on this next track too, which was Can You Relate? And they killed that as well. Yeah, it was meant to be like a really epic, kind of orchestral sounding hip hop beat.
So for all you guys to listen to now, this song is Grind by Ben Grant and all of his many friends.
I've been on my grind, yeah. Gotta be on time, man. I just wanna so I'm litty now. And if I don't succeed, I let the city down. Reasons why I'm spitting now and getting writtens down. I'm slick and slitting wrists on my sentences. End the sentence now. Period. All of my delirious. You serious? I got the courage to follow my dreams, so everyone calling me Muriel. Looking at y'all from an aerial view, thinking my mama was married to Zeus. If I am a god, I'm a god of the truth, and I with my lines in the booth.
I've been on my grind, yeah. I've been on my grind, yeah. Gotta be on time, man. I just wanna fly in, make it worth my while. Then ruby or the diamond, you can choose on my way. I don't gotta take it though, fake it till you make it though. What's the point of faking though? You don't have no patience though. I've been on my grind, yeah.
Hell of a grind, such a grind, man. Half of the time, I don't got the time to get to the loop. You got the bag, but the handle is Zeus, so I'm snatching that. As a rap, I gave you a chance, but you don't want the smoke, so you passing that. Ayy, wishing you not in my way, cause you blocking my view. Cataract. I'm on a mission for millions, not even a million, a billion, not even a billion, a trillion. So much be stacked to the ceiling, the bank gon' complain they got too much in the building. My grind be going day to day, I can't escape the feeling.
I've been on my grind, yeah. I've been on my grind, yeah. Gotta be on time, man. I just wanna fly in, make it worth my while. Then ruby or the diamond, you can choose on my way. I don't gotta take it though, fake it till you make it though. What's the point of faking though? You don't got no patience though. I've been on my grind, yeah.
I've been on my grind, so much on my mind that I ain't got the time to roll around. I gotta get what's mine, I got a heavy heart, I gotta find it. Gotta get what's mine and take back what they didn't give on sight. Paranoia ever made me feel like I'm choking. Open up my mind to see inside, to see it's going for it till my time run out, ticking time out till I sign off, blow up by my grind. It's all my demons, right about my demons, I can't even read it, can't believe it. Gotta block the evil, too hard on my people. See it, see through, I just see the truth. I just see the truth. Is it you? Is it even you? I don't have the proof. In my room, more like in the booth, more like in the asylum. Cause St. Virus got the city silent, got my city wildin'. I do wisest out and off the sirens. Wake me up the violence while I'm grinding. Gotta make it, gotta make it chocolate, baby.
I've been on my grind, yeah. I've been on my grind, yeah. Gotta be on time, man. I just wanna fly in, make it worth my while. Then ruby or the diamond, you can choose on my way. I don't gotta take it though, fake it till you make it though. What's the point of faking though? You don't got no patience though. I've been on my grind, yeah.
So Ben, what kind of upcoming projects do you have now that the semester's over and the senior project is complete?
Personally, I'm trying to release a single by the end of the summer. Just, like while I have the time and I'm home and I don't have a full-time job currently, so I figure like I might as well just keep being as productive as possible. On top of that, I've been doing some freelance production and mixing and some mastering for people. I've had like a couple projects so far that should be being released soon, which I'll definitely be sharing on like Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. I've been selling beats online, so just kind of trying to piecemeal a bunch of different streams of revenue to kind of like turn this into a career, hopefully by the end of the summer. You can definitely keep up with everything I'm doing on my website, which is bengrantmusic.com. Like I was saying, I offer production and mixing and mastering for definitely affordable prices. Like we can talk and figure out what works best for you. Yeah, just gonna keep working as much as I can.
Understandable. Awesome. Yeah. About the website. Is there any other places specifically on social media that people should be following you?
You could follow my Instagram, which I probably use the most out of all them. And I'm also on Facebook, so you can you can find me on there, as well as LinkedIn if you wanna connect there. And then also definitely check me out on Apple Music, Spotify, whatever you use. I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, check out A to Z, everybody. Great listen to for the summer and fantastic senior project. Ben, thank you again for coming on. I really greatly appreciate having you. This has been phenomenal, and congratulations on all your success.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of St. Rose Rocks. As always, I got to thank Student Development, Student Association, the St. Rose marketing team, and the college in general. We're going to keep going throughout the summer and showing you guys some fantastic artists and some more senior projects to come. You guys are the reason that St. Rose rocks. I'm glad we got to spend some time.
It's gone.